Hi everyone, my name is Emily Rosmus. I'm the Education Coordinator.
And my name's Hunter Kauffman. I'm the Nature and Arts Educator at the Ned Smith Center.
Today we're not at the center, obviously. Instead, we're in Millersburg, PA, along the Susquehanna River at a national landmark, which is the Millersburg Ferry Landing.
Today we're going to take a ride on the Roaring Bull, one of two of the ferry boats that crosses the Susquehanna.
Welcome to our Ned Talks. Nestled in the mountains of central Pennsylvania, just along the Susquehanna River, lies the last known pair of wooden, double stern wheel paddle boats still in operation in the United States, the Millersburg Ferry Boats. With a fleet of two boats, the Roaring Bull 5 and the Falcon 3, the Millersburg Ferry Boats are the only ferries still in service along the entire 464-mile-long Susquehanna River. Time travel with us today and ride a piece of history.
Hi, I'm Captain Tom Maloney. We're here aboard the Roaring Bull. Roaring Bull is one of the two Millersburg ferry boats in existence since 1817 as an organization here in the Susquehanna River. The boats here that we're on now have been the same since the 1920s, so basically about 80 years have been the same boats. Before that, there was different iterations. Captain Jack Dillman, one of our previous captains and big part of the legacy of the Millersburg Ferry, he's loading the car right now onto the flat here, or the barge. When the cars load on this side here, they drive straight on, and then when we get to the other side, they'll drive straight off.
My name is Captain Jack Dillman. I am retired as a riverboat captain, though I am called out of retirement almost on a daily basis to serve as a teacher and an instructor. I began working on the water, both salt and fresh, in 1945, and here it is, 2020, and I'm still on the water. In this case, the Susquehanna. I'm a semi-retired riverboat captain, you might say. Ned Smith, he was such a talented man, but he was also a very friendly, helpful man. There was a couple of young fellows that wanted to put a cabin up on Barker's Island. So the two boys got ashore and they were unloading, and the one began to curse and swear, and we were wondering what brought that on. Well, he saw some small trees that had been hacked down, and he thought his buddy had done it with a hatchet. Well, Betty and I looked at that and we said, good gravy, these look like beaver bite marks. But what's a beaver doing here at Barker's Island? A couple days later, Ned came across. So naturally, I asked him about that, and he told me all about the bank beavers and how they're out here. People just aren't really aware of it. I always admired the way he could draw, the way he could paint. Just felt like you ought to go somewhere and take a walk yourself.
We're going to cross the Susquehanna River here between Millersburg, Dauphin County, and down below Liverpool and Crow's Landing in Perry County. As measured in Harrisburg, the water level down in Harrisburg today is about 3.4 foot, which suits us fine. We had run it into the bottom a couple times a year previously when it was just at 3.1. We're glad to have the 3.4. Thank you, Eli. Good job, friend. Here we have second mate, Eli. Thank you, Eli. And you are riding the Roaring Bull, one of the two Millersburg Ferry Boat Association ferry boats across the Susquehanna.
When the ferry boat comes across the river, it comes here to Crow's Landing on the western side of the Susquehanna, just a couple miles south of Liverpool. Crow's Landing is accessible from Route 15 and pretty easy to get to.
1886, as I understand, was called the Pumpkin Flood. It must have happened in the fall of the year, and among other things, there were a lot of pumpkins floating by. 1946, well, that flood was in the spring. That was the year I became a ferryman. 1889 is the earliest photograph we have of that first steamboat, the one they called the Enterprise. 1975 is Eloise, the hurricane that came by. I and a buddy of mine did the usual. We sat on the ferry boats and kept them bailed out until it was over with. 1904 was not only a horrible flood in the spring, but a bad ice jam. It was destroying bridges, and it also destroyed our first steam ferry here called the Enterprise. 1936 was the flood to end all flood. They called it the once in a century flood, and you name it. Along comes Agnes in 1972, and well, so much for the 36 flood. It was close to a month before the water got down to a level where we could take cars aboard and we're back in business again. But there wasn't a whole lot of service, naturally. People had had their fill of water, even going across on it.
I was running a boat across the river, and I heard a big sound, and I heard some flopping on the deck there on the barge. And I says to the first mate, "What's that?" He says, "It's a smallmouth bass." Here it had jumped up between the power boat and the barge after an insect in between that had got caught in between and landed on the deck of the barge, and it was close to 2 foot long. And well, anyhow, the first mate picked up the smallmouth bass and threw it back in the river, and I'm still waiting for him to do it again. No hook, no license, but a lot of fun.
A writer wrote something about me which really got me. He said that the Susquehanna and I have an understanding with each other. Sometimes I have to pay my dues. I might get caught on the rocks or something like that, but someday when I die, even the river will mourn. That, I don't know, there was something about the way he wrote that. It just kind of stunned me, and still does, to think about.
Just as Ned and so many thousands of others people have taken this historic trip across the Susquehanna, you can too.
Make sure to check the Millersburg Ferry out on social media to find out more information.
Until next time, this is NedTalks. Happy splashing.